rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Hey, Steve Smith.
Hello,
I am
Brett
doing
Starr.
fantastic.
How are you today?
I am Brett Starr, the CEO and founder of the Starr Conspiracy. He's Steve Smith, my business partner for about 40 years, 50 years, 80 years, long time, and an owner, partner at the Starr Conspiracy. And we are talking about work tech and all kinds of topics associated with work tech. Today, we're talking about events, optimizing your presence at events and why it's important. It seems like a tactical topic. I don't actually think it's tactical. I've seen companies made by, their approach to events in the work tech segment. I think that there's a real opportunity to create defining moments in events right now. We've got a thought leadership article out right now on events. Tell us a little bit about that, Steve.
Yeah, we did some research, got responses from lots of work tech professionals, like the ones who listen to this podcast. And really what we wanted to do was we wanted just to kind of offer some insights based on perspectives of our subject matter experts. So we talked to folks like Tony Spangler and Michelle Park on our PR team, Nancy Crabb and Aaron Sanders on our creative team, JJ Lapata on our digital team, so forth and so on, and got just an ebook that's chock full of insights based on thousands of years of experience in the workplace technology arena.
Well, let me start with some important questions. Do events matter in work tech?
Yeah, they do. I mean, I think the question had been, do events still matter in work tech? I mean, we went through this period where I think headed into the pandemic, events there were so many of them that I think that vendors were being pulled in a lot of different directions. I don't think that they were necessarily seeing the ROI that they wanted to, but then pandemic came around, live events went virtual, then they went hybrid. And I think that one of the things we saw last year is that industry events have kind of new steam, and that there's a lot of, I think, people want to get out of the house and they want to get out of the home office. They want to see and connect with colleagues, with other people in their industry, and to learn things. And so I think that there's a lot more energy kind of coming into events, and there's certainly a lot of questions that people have, and what we want to do with this asset.
Yeah, think about it from a social capital perspective even. We are at a moment where people leaders, organizations, executive teams, companies large and small are rethinking everything about the work experience and the employee experience, everything about how people work, where they work still, and it's still in flux. And back in the old days, in the before times, there were sales meetings and there were, people would run RFP processes that would result in big pitches on site. The really good people leaders, HR leaders, executives were always meeting with up and coming technology companies because there's so much best practice that is shared in the context of those meetings. And those meetings don't happen the way they used to. We can put on our owner's hat for a moment and think about how we deploy our sales resources, our salespeople. Back, in 2018, we were on a plane a lot, and we would fly into San Francisco or New York, or name a big area here, and we would set 10 or 15 meetings over several days, and we would go from office to office. And that stuff just doesn't happen anymore. And so where does it happen, if it's happening at all? And events have become, just kind of like, hey, let's get all of it done. Let's build our social capital in one or two spots. Let's, get all of the meetings that maybe I would have gotten stretched out over the course of a year. They're happening at events. You were at HR Tech, which I would last year, which I would still argue, and I'll ask you this question, but I would argue the HR Tech is still the most significant event in work tech. I'll ask the question. I'll ask two questions. Number one, you put this idea in my head when I said, do events matter? And you said, well, the question is, do events still matter? And so I'll start there. Do events matter more or less in, 2023 than they did in, say, 2019? Let's start there.
I think that they're mattering more just because we're coming through this pandemic period where we kind of got to see what does virtual and hybrid look like, and so I think that there's definitely a renewed energy that's providing a lot more interest and I guess credibility to events. What I think we really kind of wanted to kind of point to is that, if you go back 10, 15 years ago, events, had a different place in the ecosystem because they were much more buying events. They were meeting prospective customers, advancing deals, and really, getting to close a lot faster. And I think that reality doesn't exist as much anymore. Buying committees have gotten bigger for enterprise software sales, and there's just things don't move as quickly. And so I think that what we're seeing happen with events is sort of twofold. Events are educational for both prospective buyers, but also for vendors. And then I think that you're also seeing that the place that events have in an ecosystem or in the buying journey are more kind of mid-funnel buying behaviors. So, buyers going to shows and they have a short list of 5 vendors that they want to check out, or they are already in kind of mid-conversation with a few vendors and they want to use the face-to-face opportunity to engage and kind of advance the deal there. So I think that that's something that has evolved over time. But as one of the things we wanted to point out in the asset is that what you as a vendor need to do at an event is a lot of times driven by what category are you in. So what are sort of the unique buying behaviors of your buyers, but then also what stage of growth are you? If you're an early stage startup, the way that you're going to approach events is very different than a sort of mid-stage, fast-scaling startup versus a more mature, larger player. And so one of the things we wanted to kind of do with this asset is really kind of unpack all of those.
Events are even more important in 2023 than they have been in recent years. You went to HR Tech last year. There were some other shows that we had a large group of people at recently. Was that the experience that you actually had? Were you surprised by HR Tech in the fall of last year? Have you been surprised by the feedback that we're getting from our teams that are going to different events?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that Brett, you and I have been going to HR Tech for 15 or 100 years, one of those. I can't remember which.
I've been going since
feels like
2002.
But okay, so what I think it's fair to say that pre-pandemic, it was easy to get a little bit kind of jaded about big events. And what I was really pleasantly surprised with at HR Tech last year was just really that renewed sense of enthusiasm from just everyone I was talking to, whether it was walking the floor and visiting brands in their booth or doing meetings or just running into people serendipitously. I think that there was definitely a lot more energy and a lot more people were engaged and really excited about being there. And I think that as I talked to, different folks on our sales team who are going out to these, events this year, we're getting the same kind of reports from a lot of events. You know, our man Jeff Peterson just got back from HR Transform.
Great, great article,
blog post that's really great. And he was raving about that show. He said that he really had a lot of great conversations there. A lot of people were just, you know, and this is a newer event, very excited about it. But, you know, one of the things that he was running into is that people are kind of flying blind. It's just like there's very much an awareness that the event dynamic is very different now than it was 3 years ago. And a lot of times people don't quite know how to proceed. How should they budget? How should they staff these things? What are, you know, they're under a lot of pressure to demonstrate the ROI of an event. And so these are all things that are very much top of mind that we were trying to kind of unpack.
Yeah, and we're going to drop a link to that asset in the description. I hope everyone downloads it. Pretty good, some really specific advice. You know, I've got a couple of things just off the top of my head that, you know, I've been saying for years and years and years. Number one is, you know, you have to remember or consider that for many people in what can be, you know, a 1 or 2 year sales process of them evaluating their need for a solution, and then, you know, figuring out who all the players are, and then figuring out the short list of people they, you know, want to go after, et cetera. Seeing you at an event may be the only physical manifestation of your brand that they ever see. So, you know, just think about that. You know, they may not even come to your office. And they certainly may not come to your office during the sales process, and they certainly may not come to your office in the year 2023. And therefore, you think about something like your booth, and you're like, well, should we do a 10 by 10 or 20 by 20, you know, or 40 by 40, or, you know, whatever. And, you know, should we do like a pretty basic, you know, kind of a concept that we can get done in 6 weeks before the show? Or should we put a lot of time and effort into it? Well, just remember that your booth presence or whatever is going to be parked next to someone else's who's also on the short list. And people are going to be making value judgments because that's the only physical manifestation of your brand compared to others that they'll ever see. It's like having 2 city blocks that have nothing but work tech companies on them. And you can see the people who are, you know, sharing time in the coffee shop, and the people who have, you know, a 20-story, you know, skyscraper that has their logo on top, right? And so, you know, you should be thoughtful about that. The second is, you know, always take more people than you think you need, because about 20% are going to get drunk and not show up. Maybe that's just us. I don't know.
Maybe that's just our company, Brett.
Although I was talking to a member of my family recently who is part of a video game company, and I can't ever say anything about him or the company that he's involved with, because it's just also secret. So don't say anything, Steve. But he went to a show recently, and he took a team out to San Francisco, and he had some issues with people, you know, not showing up. And so, you know, it's always take a little bit, you know, 10 or 20% more than you think you need. But okay, real quick, top 3 shows, top 3 events for WorkTech.
You know, I mean, I think that it depends on your industry. Like, one of the things that came out in our, and then also what is it you're doing? Are you exhibiting? Or are you attending? So, you know, we asked hundreds of WorkTech professionals that responded to our survey, you know, where are they exhibiting and where are they attending? And there's some stark differences of shows that they want to attend, but maybe not those. The most attended shows maybe not are the ones that are the most exhibited. And then I think that there's also just some differences in categories. Like, so say, for instance, in kind of like enterprise learning, Learning Technologies Conference in London has, you know, year after year been one of the best shows in the industry. And, you know, it's a great show for companies in that category, but it's not so much for kind of broad-based workplace technology. Or if you look at, like, you know, Gartner's Future of Work Summit, it's just like, that's a great show to attend, but maybe not necessarily one to exhibit at. Or, you know, one of the interesting things that kind of came out from our research was that lots of interest in Unleash conferences, both their U.S. conference and in Unleash World. I think that, based on my experience, going to their world event in Paris is a fantastic trade show, especially for European companies or companies trying to break into the European market. Just incredibly, well run. Can't say enough great stuff about it. It's a good show for buyers. But I don't necessarily think that that's necessarily translated into their U.S. event, although it's a good event just in different ways. So, I think that, HR Tech is still, sort of the 800-pound gorilla in the event space. I think that that's even more so now that they've have a new owner and coming out of the pandemic, largest event ever. I don't expect that to change, but I think that, depending on kind of what category you're trying to make waves in, there may be some shows that are different that would be.
Yeah. What do you think
the
change in ownership is going to mean for HR Tech?
I think it's just going to be nothing but positive. I think that it's been a great event, but my read on it is that the new ownership will be a lot more focused on really the workplace, HR, learning and development categories. So I think it's going to be a positive for the event. I think it's going to really kind of fuel growth. So I expect it to be nothing but, bigger.
We need to rebrand them.
More of everything. Oh,
well, I mean, they just need to rebrand.
I
mean, the formally, or formally, not formerly as in the past, but their formal name is HR Technology Conference, right? And we've seen, you wrote fluently on this topic that, HR Tech is dead and it didn't die because of failure. It died because of its success. And so this notion of, HR technology has really given way to a broader concept of work tech, which is not a, just a euphemism or fancy marketing. It actually, seeks to, consider the merging of multiple categories. And I was having this conversation with someone recently. I can't remember who it was. We were talking about organizing principles and, big changes in markets that redefine leadership and reorganize the field. And one of the things that I'd forgotten, but that I remembered, because everyone always talks about, Salesforce and how Salesforce, promoted, software as a service instead of Salesforce automation and, how brilliant that was. And I'm always like, yeah, it was brilliant, but timing is everything. It's like when there's a big transformation, and it creates a fault line, like, in the cloud versus on premise. Yeah, it's really good to promote the technology shift. And then, to kind of backfill with, kind of some category stuff. But we've seen people try that stuff when there's not a big, a tectonic shift in the market going on and it doesn't work. And so, the right idea has to, kind of be backed by the right timing at the same time. But one of the things that I remembered was that, the change in tech was so significant during that period, say 1999 to 2005. It was so significant. I was in deep tech at that time. I was in what we used to call data extraction, transformation, and loading, data ETL. And I worked with a company called Data Junction that was bought by CompuWare. We solved the Y2K crisis, so you're all welcome. We did that, and you can see it on the internet. It's true. And we did it all with CD-ROMs that we dropped in the mail. But anyway, I was in deep tech at the time, and I was reading and pitching and, et cetera, to all these like database magazines and, tech magazines and stuff like that. And everyone was arguing for the creation of a new position. And that new position was the Chief Information Officer, the CIO. CIO didn't exist. It did not exist. In 1999, 2000, 2001, I was reading article after article after article advocating for the creation of a chief executive role that sought to elevate technology above the departmental threshold. They were like, man, tech is moving so fast that we need somebody to basically make sure that people in departments didn't buy shitty tech, right? It's like, we need a CIO to prevent, that guy over there from buying stuff that's on premise when there's this new cloud, situation, et cetera, et cetera. And, that's one of the things that, and you can go back to other, like the chief supply chain officer when manufacturing software, became very focused on just in time and lean and stuff like that. So when there are big changes in the tech field or when there are big changes in society or whatever that impact business, you often see the creation of a new position. So HR Tech should rebrand because I believe that HR is going to rebrand. And someone, the person I was speaking to on this topic said, no one's in charge of work. It's not HR anymore. It's work, right? It's like, and so who's in charge of work? Yeah. And is there going to be a chief work officer or something like that? Most of the time, I think it's kind of silly. Like, I don't know did you see the Zenefits campaign that was running on LinkedIn? Oh man, it was lambasted, but I can't even remember. It was so silly. It was like, it's not, HR anymore. It's called like the people platform or something like that, as if it was like revolutionary. And like 500 HR people were just dragging this campaign. Oh, it's about people. Oh, it was just hilarious. But it doesn't change the fact that there's so many changes going on, that people are looking at work in a different way. And it's at the intersection of, all kinds of different tech. It's not just HR tech, it's all this other, the project management tech and, all kinds of stuff that impacts the work experience. And that's driving changes that require, a different perspective. And HR just, that's not the winner anymore. And so and therefore, in short, too late, sorry, HR Technology Conference should rebrand to something that's a little bit more inclusive of all of the innovation that's happening at the edges of what used to be called HR.
Well, and this is the right time to do it. Anytime there's a change in ownership or something significant that happens with a company, that's the perfect time to rebrand, send a signal to the market that something is different here. And I think that there's a huge opportunity to even take that conference to a whole other level. And I think that, again, by opening up the aperture to kind of this broader
you need to
world
get,
of work.
There's already a lot of executives that show up. There's a really good mix of people from the financial communities and from the vendor communities and lots of would-be customers, end users, et cetera. It's a pretty good mix, but you need more executives coming in, and they're not going to go to an HR show. And in fact, it's not an HR show. We do that. We do rebranding. So, hey, HR Tech, call us and we can help. We also help people with their event strategies, and we place event strategies in the broader context of their entire customer experience, which includes their brand, marketing, sales, product, and customer success experiences, 5 subdomains of CX. What are some of, don't give them all away because we want people to download the article that's in the description. But what are some of the tips that are in that article that people might benefit from when thinking about their event strategies?
Well, I think that a lot of it is thinking about your event strategy holistically. It's not just, go to an event, throw up your booth, have your folks, trying to grab people to run them through demos or scan badges and then go home. I think that, what we're pointing out is that there's a lot of benefit in thinking about, okay, so how's this going to integrate with your, PR and analyst relations strategy? How are you going to bring digital marketing into the spectrum? How are you going to talk to your existing customers who might be at that event? How do you need to look at approaching it from a design and creative perspective? And so, really what it all comes down to is just like, we know that, sales and marketing are under greater pressure than ever with events to show ROI. And so one of the things that we are trying to do is how you can show that ROI, and specifically kind of what, dimensions of ROI you need to be focusing on. as you are approaching your event strategy from a
people ask us
holistic
all the time,
perspective.
what are events really for? I mean, are they to drive leads? Are they for brand recognition? Are they a sales strategy? Yeah. And the answer is really, it depends. All right. We do know that you can't achieve everything all at once. And so it's really important to kind of understand, what you are trying to focus on, but also what experience are you trying to create for people? Because if you have this bigger, customer experience vision, then, it becomes brand's responsibility and marketing's responsibility and sales responsibility and product and customer success to deliver on that vision, not to promise it, but actually deliver on it, from, their chairs, from their, subdomains within the CX. I would just say this, big picture, you got to break the script in everything that you do. And so just take a PR example, you hit the analyst room, you go in with your press release that's been embargoed for, 2 days, and you're going around and talking to all the analysts, all the people that you hang out with, Steve, all your friends. And, if you go in and the script's just running in the background and you do the pitch just the way everyone else, they're not even fucking paying attention. They can't. They're not bad people. It's just you can only take so much script-driven boredom. And so how do you break the script there? When you're out, on the floor, there's a script running in the background. If you walk by somebody's booth and you make eye contact, you are about to get into a very awkward conversation that will eventually lead to, looking at some demo on a screen. That's the script. It's a bad script. You got to break the script. And so, if you have an event, a party, and it sucks, that's actually the script, because most of those parties suck. So, figure out where you can break the script and where you can't, and then just don't do the shit that where you can't break the script because you can't afford it, or you got your strategies start to counteract each other because you're trying to do too much stuff. That would be my advice, is that one defining moment, one moment of breaking the script is going to drive more value than 30 well executed but forgettable moments at an event.
Right. And I mean, I think I go back to, when we did our own brand launch at HR Tech back in, 2011. And, we had the Airstream, we had the picnic tables. It was just weird and different. Yeah. And people still talk about that, the conversations that happened in the Airstream,
because we were breaking the script. And, before we developed a model around creating defining moments in every subdomain of CX, and really analyze what does it mean to create a defining moment. And, one big part of it is breaking the script. We were doing it intuitively. And so, for instance, I think we were beyond the statute of limitations. You're not supposed to take an Airstream to an event and load it with liquor and produce endless bottles of scotches and, bourbons and, stuff like that from secret compartments and just have a drink with somebody inside an air-conditioned trailer and just talk. With no screens, no pitches, no nothing. It's just like, hey, let's get to know each other. That is a real break the script moment. It was for some people. It was not for other people. That was fine. We were, staking the emotional space around our brand and what we stood for. And, people remember it, and they still remember it. And we've seen, moments like that over and over and over again. And it's usually, and, this is the last thing that I would say about this. Creativity is delicate. It is delicate. And the most successful, I always think of Mike Carden whenever I think of successful creative leaders who also are, successful founders. Mike Carden founded Sonar 6 and sold it to Cornerstone On Demand. He's got an amazing, fish on the line with Joyous. By the way, strong, artificial intelligence component. One of the things about all this AI, situation, all the interest around AI, is there's been a lot of great companies out there built on AI for a long time. And Joyous was already doing incredibly well. But now with all this renewed interest, people are stopping their purchase process and saying, wait, should we be thinking about a solution with AI? And, don't go out and create an AI company because they're already there. It's just people are like Joyous probably wouldn't have said the first thing out of the chute, 2 years ago. Oh yeah, we're an AI solution. they might be pushing that AI component a little bit up in their, hierarchy of claims right now. But anyway, going back to it, creativity is a very delicate thing. And when you have a truly creative idea that breaks the script, most of the people that you talk to about it are going to shit all over it. They really are. And that's when you know you're on to something. Because, the more that people tell you it's stupid, the more that people tell you, you're going to embarrass yourself or, whatever, it's really easy to start thinking, well, this is a dumb idea, isn't it? This is going to go really poorly, isn't it? And then you start to cringe a little bit, and then everyone starts to cringe around you, and then you start to water it down, and it becomes something, not great. And so, be aware that if you're doing something creative, you're probably doing it right if everyone around you thinks it's the worst idea they've ever heard.
Well, I mean, and that is like, if you only, learn one thing from, podcasts, reading material, just like this is the key point is great marketing is going to make you uncomfortable, and that's okay. A lot of times we see brands walk back great marketing because they're afraid of it and they don't have consensus. Consensus, if you got everybody liking it, that is an indicator that you haven't pushed it far enough and that the output probably sucks. And it's just like a lot of people don't understand that. They're striving for consensus, and that's actually the worst thing. If you have some people who love it and some people who really hate it, that's the indicator that you're probably, you probably have everything.
And a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but if you're in marketing and you're not willing to put your job on the line for a big idea, you probably shouldn't be in marketing. It's like, what are you doing? Are you having any fun? Because, marketing's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
It's like I have a degree in fucking American literature, and a master's in criminology. Okay. I went into marketing because marketing is fun. And that's why most people go into marketing. And so if you're, not willing to put your job on the line for a big idea, I don't think you should be in marketing. If you're not willing to put your company on the line for a big idea, I don't think you should be a founder of a company. And so, as we just think about, and, all of the moments in work tech and outside of work tech where amazing brands have been created from, a defining moment, a spark of, something that ultimately is grounded in risk taking and creativity. One must ponder, how does that happen? And I can tell you how it happens. We can tell you how it happens because we're, in where the sausage gets made. And it is fucking terrifying. And, sometimes it doesn't work, but, if you don't at least try, you're going to be relegated to, the forgettable, so whatever. Okay. Events are important. You should do a great job there. We can help you. There's a great white paper in the description. That's what we used to call them. I think they're like thought leadership articles now, or I don't know. There's ebook. There's an ebook. Yep. And it's a good one. It really is. And there's a lot of really great advice there. Last thing I'll say is you should be working on, like, if you're like your fall strategy, you should be working on it right now. I was thinking about this in the I'm going to brag a little bit. I was thinking about this in the gym this morning when I was working out. I was like, we should run like a summer special. Because the problem is in the summer, like, everybody kind of takes their eye off the ball. And that is the biggest opportunity to actually really get prepared for harvest season, September, October, November, and December. And sometimes it's hard just to catch people and get them focused on, like, your event strategy in the fall, your, brand push in the fall, your mid pipeline or late pipeline, push or whatever. For like some organizations like Wellbeing, who, sell a small number of very large deals every year, and they all happen, right towards the end of the year or whatever. The time to get all of your ducks in a row is really during the summer. It's already April. And this is going to be, I think, the spring and the fall are going to be the biggest event seasons we've ever seen. And that's not just me saying that. I mean, HR Tech, for the first time, had more exhibitors and more attendees than SHRM. And that I could never have imagined that would someday happen, say 10 years ago. And so, yeah, get stuff ready. We can help. Right on. All right, Steve.
Right on.
It's great talking to you. Look forward to doing it again.
Great talking to you. Let's do it again.
Okay, bye.